Let's try a system that's got a little bit fewer variables. So we've got a system here, 3 variables, 3 equations, a little bit easier. So let's start by making this into a matrix. Again, we're using the coefficients. We got 1, -2, 3, and then a constant over on the right side of 9. Second row, constant for coefficient for our x value is -1. For our y value it's 3. And there's no z, so we're going to say 0 for z. And a constant of -4. And then third row we got 2, -5, +5, and 17. So just like we did for the more complex, the one that we just did, the one with 4 variables, we're going to slowly pick away at these. Now remember, in general, on the diagonal we want these to be 1s, and we want everything below it and everything above it to be 0s. So I'm just going to focus on the first column. So we already have a 1 in the first column, which is really nice. In the second row, first column, if we just add row 1 to that, that's going to help us get rid of the -1 in row 2. So, using this, we're going to leave the first row alone. We got 1, -2, 3, and then on the other side we have a constant of 9. Now we're going to take everything in row 1 and add it to row 2. So we have 1 plus -1 giving us 0. We have -2 plus 3 giving us 1. That's kind of nice. And then we have 3 plus 0 giving us 3. And then for our constants, we have 9 and -4 giving us a grand total of 5. Now, while we're at it, you'll notice I haven't started writing the third row. Let's see if we can get rid of this 2 as well. So while we're doing that, I'm going to say let's add -2 times row 1 to row 3. So we're going to do -2 times 1 gives us -2. Add it to that 2, that gives us 0. Let's take -2, add it to, oops, sorry, that's not the right. Take -2, multiply it by -2, giving us 4. Take that 4 and add it to that -5, that gives us -1. And yes, I switched colors, but that's okay. And then we're going to take this 3, multiply it by -2, which is -6, add it to that 5, giving us -1. And then for our constants over here, we got 9, multiply that by -2, giving us -18. We're going to add -18 to 17. That's going to give us a grand total of -1. So you can do multiple rows at a time. You don't have to do them one at a time. This way we'll save a little bit of space. Okay, so now this is looking a little nice already. We got a 1 here, we got a 1 here. We gotta see if we can make this, or we got zeros here. We gotta see if we can make that one a 0. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add, oop, that's a highlighter, sorry. Let's add row 2 to row 3. Now I'm running out of horizontal space here, so I'm gonna move this over this way. So adding row 2 to row 3, we're not tweaking row 1 at all. So we have still 1, -2, 3, and then our constant of 9. We're leaving row 2 alone. We're going to use it, but we're not going to change it. And if we add a row 2 to row 3, we'll do 0 plus 0. That's still 0. We'll do 1 plus -1. That gives us 0 there. And then we'll also have 3 plus -1 giving us 2. Also adding the constants, 5 plus -1 gives us 4. So now it's looking pretty nice. We've got those zeros where we want in that corner. Now looking at the last one, we got 0, 0, 2, 4. If we just divide everything in that row by 2, it's going to make it nice and clean. We'll have 1, -2, 3, and then on the constant side, 9. Didn't change that row. We're not changing row 2 this round, but we are dividing everything in row 3 by 2. So we got 0, 0, 1, and 2. So essentially we already have z equals 2 solved. Now we're going to kind of work our way back up. We're going to see if we can get rid of, we got our 1s in our diagonal there. Let's see if we can get rid of that 3. And while we're at it, let's also get rid of that 3. In order to do so, we're going to use this bottom row. So that we're going to do -3 times that 1 to add it to both of these. So we'll say, let me switch colors here. So we'll do plus -3 row 3 to both row 2 and to row 1. So I'm going to go through column by column and start adding them together. So we're going to do 1 plus -3 times 0. That still goes as 1. We'll do this -2 plus -3 times that 0, which is still -2. And then we're going to do 3 plus -3 times 1, so 3 plus -3 giving us 0. That's what we're trying to get. Constant side, can't forget about that. That's one, I'll be honest, I often forget, or am more often to forget. we're going to take 9, add it to negative 3 times 2. So we got 9 plus negative 6, giving us a grand total of 3. For row 2, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 0 plus negative 3 times 0 gives us 0. We're going to do 1 plus negative 3 times 0. That's still 1. We're going to do 3 plus negative 3 times 1. So 3 plus negative 3, that gives us our 0 there. Same thing for the constants. We're going to do 5 plus negative 3 times 2. So we got 5 plus negative 6 giving us negative 1. Bottom row, we haven't changed it because we're actually happy with it. Almost done. Now we have our final row is our z equals 2. The second row, now we have, this is 0x, this is 1y, 0z. So this is 1y equals negative 1. So we now know our y value. Now we're going to see if we can get rid of this negative 2. That's the last one we got to get rid of on that side. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is let's add 2 times row 2. So that way when we do 2 times 1, that becomes a 0. So going through it slowly but surely, we're going to go 1 plus 2 times 0. That still gives us a 1. We're going to do negative 2 plus 1 times 2. So that gives us negative 2 plus 2, giving us 0. And then the final of that side, 0 plus 2 times 0 is still 0. And then on the constant side, we're going to have 3 plus 2 times negative 1. So in other words, 3 plus negative 2, in other words, 1. The second row, we didn't change it. We used it, but we didn't change it. We got 0, 1, 0, negative 1 still, and 0, 0, 1, 2. So this problem was a bit quicker, especially because we did 2 parts at the same time. So from here, our x value, looking at that top row, we got 1, 0, 0, 1. So that means 1x plus 0y plus 0z equals 1, which means x equals 1. From our second row, that tells us our y value of negative 1. Our third row tells us our z value of positive 2. And there we have it.